Okay, that's what I'll do. I'll tell you a story. Can you hear them? All those people who lived in terror of you and your judgment, whose ancestors devoted themselves, sacrificed themselves to you. Can you hear them singing? You like to think you're a god. Oh, but you're not a god. You're just a parasite that eats out in jealousy and envy and longing for the lives of others. You feed off them on the memories of birth and death and joy and sorrow. So, come on then. Take them. Take my memories. Because I have lived a long life. And I have seen a few things. I walked away from the last great Time War. I saw the passing of the Time Lords. I saw the birth of the universe and watched as time ran out. Moment by moment until nothing remained. No time, no space, just me. I seen the laws of the physics devised by the minds of a madman. And I've watched universes freeze and creation burn. And I have seen things you wouldn't believe. And I have lost things you will never understand. And I know things, secrets that must never be told, knowledge that must never be spoken, knowledge that will make parasites gods blaze. So come on then, have 'em. You take it all, baby. Take it. You take it all. There you go. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today I want to apologise for that incredibly corny opening, but this is a very special occasion because today we're going to be talking about the Series 7 story, The Rings of Akhaten, written by Neil Cross. Yes, that Neil Cross, the creator of Luther, and is directed by Farron Blackburn. We'll also as well be talking about the short story Rain God, written by Neil Gaiman. But we'll talk about that later. Despite I watched in the other order, I've decided to talk about it because the main reason you want to watch this video is for my opinion on the Rings of Akhaten. Now, this is a story which has a lot of baggage under its belt. Neil Cross is a well-respected writer in the British television industry, and he was basically asked by Stephen Moffat to write a story. Yes, he was brought on by Stephen Moffat to write Hyde, a story which actually aired later. However, the creative team, Stephen Moffat and his co-producers, enjoyed his work so much that he was actually asked to write another story for Series 7. However, this story, which was going to be the second episode of the second half of Series 7, had many limitations to it. For one, it was done in a very short notice. I don't remember if it was to replace a script that fell through or whether Stephen Moffat actually left this to the last minute and so asked Neil Cross to write another script after seeing how good he was with Hyde. I don't remember, but there was also some limitations to his script because of the time. They were only allowed a limited amount of sets, and Matt Smith actually couldn't appear for the majority of the story. For you see, he was actually filming during the shooting of this episode. He was also shooting. I can't remember if he was shooting another film or establishing shots for the story, The Nightmare in Silver, which is a story later on featuring the Cybermen. So this story had a lot on it, riding on it, and Neil Cross decided to make this the closest thing Doctor Who has ever done to Doctor Who the musical. But now, let's talk about the general consensus, because this story, looking back, is considered a highly regarded story. A lot of people talk about how they love this story and how it's made them see a new type of Doctor Who story. However, that wasn't always the case. When the story first aired back in 2013, which is almost like 10 years ago, that's really weird. 9 years ago, my God. Rings of Akhaten is 9 years ago, that's really... that just hit me. But anyway, when the story first aired back in 2013, this story was critically panned. How panned was it? Well, in a Doctor Who poll in the Doctor Who magazine, this story ranked at like the 6th or 7th lowest in all Doctor Who stories of all time. It was beaten in terms of like stories which people considered better. Stories like Warriors from the Deep beat it. That just goes to show how people hate this story, because have you seen Warriors of the Deep? It's not very good. I mean, it has good elements to it, but majority of that story is critically panned. I think Boomtown beat The Rings of Akhaten and a few other stories which you are quite surprised. Asylum of the Daleks beat it. Really strange, but yeah, this was considered a really, not only a story that people just didn't like, but it's a story that people actively hated during its first airing. So, yeah, it was a massive shock to me, because to basically rum up my opinions really early on, I remember watching this story. Actually, I'll tell you what, my situation at the time basically summarised the ideas of this show in terms of a viewing audience. I remember when I first watched this, I was at my father's flat with my father, of course. Can't remember if his partner was there, but my stepmother. But my partner at the time was there, and I think my younger brother was there as well. So that was around about 5 or 4 people there. I remember after the airing of this episode, when the credits roll, I was just in utter awe. I had my mouth open. I was just like, holy shit, that was incredible! Only to just look around and find half of my family almost asleep, and everybody else who wasn't half asleep criticising and how absolutely dull and boring this story was. I don't understand where all the hate comes from. Honestly, I don't. Sure, it's a lot slower paced than most stories, but it fills up that time extraordinarily well. However, the first thing that doesn't fulfill that need is actually the pre-credit sequence, in which there are some really great moments with it, but the pre-credit sequence, I think a lot of people agree, is kind of strange, where the Doctor kind of stalks the younger Clara through time from her parents' meeting to her being conception. The Doctor actually bumps into her. The Doctor kind of follows her as she grows up, and you actually see the Doctor interacting with her as a little girl at one point. And then the Doctor basically comes up to the conclusion that, none of this makes any sense. She's just a normal human being. There's nothing mystical about her, which is to the fact that the story arc is about this girl, this Clara, who has been appearing through time and space and keeps on dying and saying repeating things about the souffles and Run You Clever Boy and Remember Me seem to be echoing through space and time. That's only really there to basically remind audience members that yes, there is this story arc that's still there, and it does get brought up right at the very end where Clara kind of remembers the fact that the Doctor was at her mother's funeral, or at least when Clara and her father was visiting Clara's mother's gravestone, which, fun fact, her death is the 11th of March 2005. That puts it the same airing as the first ever episode of the revived era with Rose. Many fan theories have come up with the idea that Clara's mother died during the Auton invasion in that story when all of the plastic was coming to life in London. I actually really like this idea. However, it's just a theory at this point, and the date is mainly just used as a cool little Easter egg for fans to enjoy. But then when we get into the actual episode, sure, it still stumbles a bit, but when we get into the actual planet, then when the story kicks in, we see then the Doctor picking up Clara after the Bells of St. John, to which he said, come back tomorrow and I will think about it. And she has her book of 101 places to see. However, when the Doctor asks her, where do you want to go? Hey, what do you want to see? She has no idea what she wants. And this is a missed opportunity for a cool character in which she can consult her book. This is one of the few characters that actually has kept a record of all the places she wants to see. So we could have had a really interesting character here who actually takes the Doctor to places they particularly wanted to see. Maybe, I don't know, she's a fan of Queen and she wanted to see the 1986 Live Aid. I don't know. It's a possibility. But, nothing like that ever happens in the series. So, and I believe this is actually the last time the 101 places to go book is ever mentioned in the story. But Clara basically has no idea where she wants to go. She thinks about there is this funny beat where she's like, the Doctor asks her, and she's like, do you know when somebody asks you something amazing and impossible, where it's like you actually can achieve it, but then you kind of blank? Well, it's something that people do anyway. And she's just like, well, that's happening to me. So let me think. Let's go somewhere awesome. To which the Doctor takes her to the orbit of a particular planet. Now, I just want to praise this one scene. The scene in which Clara technically sees her first planet for the first time. Now, it's so well done, and it shows exactly what Doctor Who is meant. And I also love how well Doctor Who is capturing the Doctor at this point. The Doctor basically tells Clara to close her eyes and walk outside of the TARDIS. And can you feel the heat on your face? That is the heat of an alien sun, an alien planet. And when she opens her eyes, the Doctor just keeps looking at her with this grin on his face, as if he's enjoying the fact that she is witnessing this thing for the first time. The Doctor loves travelling. The Doctor loves seeing new things and new adventures because, he just enjoys just seeing all these new and creative and these weird and strange things. But why does he bring a companion over? Is it to help him into fighting the monsters? Is it to him to build his ego? Okay, maybe that one may be true. But the main reason he takes a companion, the sole premise of a companion, is because the Doctor just loves traveling with people. And it's kind of like, I tell you what's a great example is you are taking your child, if you have a kid or if you have like a younger sibling or cousin, making them watching Doctor Who for the first time. That feeling where you see these people who are unbeknownst to the wider world, the wider mythos of Doctor Who, and you seeing them seeing all of this strange and bizarre storylines for the first time. It's essentially the same relationship here. And this one scene, despite it only being a scene, it's a very simple scene and it's a very simple idea, just sums up Doctor Who and why the Doctor takes friends with him. Because he just, again, loves travelling. And I love this aspect of the 11th Doctor in Series 7, specifically in recent memory with stories like, just the dinosaurs in a spaceship, for example, is a great example of the Doctor just done so well within the narrative. It's just so cool to see. It's just simple. There's no overarching plotline here. The stuff about Clara at this scene isn't mentioned. It's mainly kept to the pre-credit sequence. But yeah, that scene where the Doctor shows Clara the first time, alien planet, the planet of Akhaten, which sometimes is described as a sun, sometimes described as a planet that has atmospheric asteroids traveling around it, and you have these civilizations that live on the asteroids, like planets orbiting a sun. These asteroids orbited the planet. However, they sometimes describe this giant ball in the middle as a sun. It is kind of confusing. But let's talk about, I can't remember what the asteroid's called, but it's on one of the rings of Akhaten. That's where the title of the story comes from, is that you have this ring. And basically the Doctor is taking Clara to this religious festival. And essentially, we don't get any plot for half the episode. That's not even a joke. Literally, we just see the Doctor and Clara, for the most part, enjoying themselves in this small little marketplace where they meet all of these strange and weird aliens with magnificent costumes, and the Doctor's pointing out each of the aliens and what their names are. There's a great moment where he mentions how he's been here before with his granddaughter Susan. The first time, I believe, I can't remember, Susan's name isn't mentioned, but it's the first time the Doctor has specifically mentioned in the revived era that he has a granddaughter. He has mentioned he's had kids before, in stories like, I believe in Fear Who he mentions having kids, or even Susan, and in The Doctor's Daughter he also mentions he's had kids. But here's where granddaughter, where Susan has been specifically mentioned. So you could actually picture and imagine the first Doctor and Susan in this environment. And this environment is so well realised. What this story shows so well, and why it's not boring, or at least not for me anyway, despite the fact there's very little plot going on here, is the fact the world building here is so well realised. The religion, the civilization, this really strange idea that instead of money as currency, it's gifts of value, and everybody here kind of has this kind of psychic sense, and they can see, like, if you give them like just like a random stone that has means no into nothing, then they'll chuck it away as pennies. However, if you give a rock that's like been in your family and you have cherished memories of this rock, then that is obviously more valuable. Personal value is currency in this place. And though that is a great build-up of world building, it actually does pay off in particular elements of this story. Yes, sure, it does then go more into fantasy than science fiction and science fact, but we've never seen a world like this in Doctor Who, and in the basis of its own story, it makes a lot of sense, and it's such a creative idea. But not to say that there is no plot at all, as we actually get something really unique to this era of Doctor Who in Series 7B. Clara does something. She befriends this small, this girl that she's seen running away, Mary Gillell, played by Amelia Jones, who is the daughter of like a famous opera singer. The name escapes me for the moment, but she's a great kid actress. And what I really loved about the story is the stakes. Clara sees this girl running away. The Doctor has basically been lost to the crowd as Clara basically goes travelling on her own. The way the Doctor kind of appears and disappears in certain events kind of hints at this idea that the Doctor kind of doing this deliberately to try and get Clara to witness her experience, her own adventures. That's my theory anyway. There's nothing actually in the story that hints that. But Clara basically finds this girl running away, and these men are kind of looking for the Queen of Years, Mary Galel. And Clara then goes to find this girl who they've find in this disused part of the city. And why is the girl running away? Are these men after her because she knows something? Does she have a weapon or a MacGuffin that could destroy the universe? No, not at all. She ran away because she is scared. She's scared of messing up this tradition. This tradition when she basically gets up on the stage and she has to sing. And that's it for the most part. Sure, we later learn that messing up, it means really messing up. But the fact that Clara, the interaction where Mary Galel and Clara, and they basically realise, Mary realises that Clara actually has, honest to God, no idea who she is, and has literally just followed her, just trying to help her, because she's seen a little girl that is lost, and she actually helps. There's a great scene where she actually takes her to go to the TARDIS, however the TARDIS is locked. There's a strange moment beat, which actually is supposed to be tied into later ideas, to which Clara and the sentient form of the TARDIS don't like each other, or at least the TARDIS doesn't like Clara, as it won't let her in. However, I don't really think it makes a lot of sense here. The Doctor might have just locked the doors. Why does that have to be like a mystery? Why did Clara think the TARDIS didn't like her when she could have just easily gone, oh, the Doctor's locked the keys, let me go find the Doctor, we'll get the keys and we'll keep you safe in the TARDIS. But it does lead into one of the best scenes of the story where Mary Galel hides behind the TARDIS and she basically explains her that she's scared and she's fearful of getting it wrong and messing it up. And basically Clara, using her skills as a nanny, which is something that we've seen in a previous incarnation in The Snowmen, and is hinted upon in the Bells of St. John. However, she doesn't actually do anything, and that's not actually part of the story or her character. But here you see that relationship she has with children and how she basically encourages her, and she tells her this story about how she was lost as a girl and she was afraid of being lost, and her mother found her and her mother told her a story, and now she was never scared of being lost again. But she's been scared loads of times, and that kind of encourages Mary to go back to back to the ritual of this singing. And honestly, if the story ended there, I would be happy. But that's basically the half of the story, and nothing really much happens in terms of plot, but it's really satisfying. It's this world, this little culture, this Queen of Years religion. Basically, we learn that everybody on this planet, there's a great bit line at the start, which we have to talk about the concept of religion in conjunction with this story, because this story, when it came up, one of the big criticisms with it is that it seemed anti-religious, and I think there's a great case here for it not, because essentially what happens is this religion, they all believe that life, the universe, was created by this god, this malevolent, almost evil god, and all of it originated on this planet/sun. And there's this great moment where, at the start of the story, where Clara asks the Doctor, is it true? And the Doctor's just like, well, it's a nice story, it's what they believe. And even when the singing starts and everybody joins in, the Doctor joins in. You know, he has no problem with religion. He has no issue with the fact that these people believe something which he knows for a fact. Because in the Doctor Who mythos, in the Doctor Who reality, the universe was created by the Big Bang, and science, mainly science, is the definitive factor of reality as the Doctor knows it. But these people believe in this religion about how the universe was created, centred to this sun slash planet, the sentient sun slash planet, and the Doctor kind of has no issues at it until there's a beat. Basically, the Doctor explains that there's what is described as the long song, a lullaby that is sung throughout millions and millions of years. Basically, the chorus gets handed down to different people throughout generations, which keeps the old god asleep, keeps them sleeping, and if they're awake, it will be hungry and eat everyone unless the Queen of Years is sacrificed. And so they have to sing, and you have this brilliant scene of everybody singing and everybody's getting on and everyone's just having fun. But however, in the song there's a beat, there's a moment of silence where all music is stopped and God starts waking up. And I love how you do kind of slowly realise what's happening. It goes silent, you have this earthquake, people kind of like look at each other, they have no idea what's going on. Suddenly this force field appears around Mary Galel and the Doctor seemingly runs away. And Clara's like, what? You can't do that. It's my fault. I encouraged her to part of the singing. She got on and now because of my fault, thing, but we can't run away. And the Doctor just turns around and is like, there's one thing you've got to learn about me, apart from the fact that I live in a blue box and the two hearts, is that we never run away. And so the Doctor meets up with a character we've seen earlier on in the story to buy a moped. And Clara actually sacrifices her mother's ring that was given to her when she was young to give to this person, because value in this story is currency, as I've stated. So they can buy this moped so the Doctor and Clara can get to this another asteroid, which is used as a sort of pyramid where the old god, this mummified creature, this creature also known as, I guess, grandfather as well, is dormant and seem to be slowly waking up. And Mary Galel has basically been taken to this room to be sacrificed. And this scene is actually really well handled. Let's talk about the directing for a second, because there's a scene here which is basically, it's a very awkward room. It's basically a blank wall room. There's not really much going on. There's these strange corridors which are kind of like half little rooms in this bigger room, and Farron Blackburn does actually a fantastic job here at making these scenes action-packed. The CGI work is incredible. The visual style, the camera work, the camera angles, the way the story is told is just so well utilised. Sure, there are some criticisms with this story though. That we also get introduced around about earlier on with Clara and Mary Galel, and they come back in the story is these guards, the Vigil, these three entities that seem to be worshipping the god, and it's their job to basically take Mary Galel to be sacrificed if she fails. They basically used as a military force. However, they kind of appear in the story. They seem to have some sort of strange teleporting ability. And they don't really do much apart from point their hands out like that. And we get some really great scenes where they knock Doctor back and there's this slow motion walk and you hear that bum, bum, da, 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 bum, bum, almost Star Wars feel into it. However, despite the fact that the camera work, the camera angles, giving these three guards essentially a lot of presence, the script makes them as just average guards, and it's really strange, but that's beside the point. The creature breaks out of its cell and seemingly dies until the Doctor realises that is not the old god. The planet/sun is actually this living entity that is basically this sentient life form, this giant planet-sized entity that will feed off everybody's soul, everybody's memories, everybody's places of value, and when it eats everybody in the local systems, it will go on to a new odyssey and eradicate everyone else. And so we get one of the, in my opinion, this is no joke, the best scene in Doctor Who. Both TV, audio dramas, books, novels, comics, you name it. It is, in my opinion, the best scene of Doctor Who overall, where the Doctor, first of all, he basically explains to Clara, it's like, right, we never run away, but when we've got something that we look after, we hang on to it, we build up, we build his trust, and we run when we have something that we need to guard until we are out of the shadows. So then the Doctor confronts the old god by himself. Sure, he's scared. Sure, he's absolutely petrified. And he does actually at one point kind of consider thinking about it, regret and running away. However, he stands up because he promised Mary Galel that he will protect her. And so we have the speech I did at the start of the video. So you're not a god, you're just a parasite eating out in jealousy and envy and longing for the lives of others. You feed off them on the memories of love and birth and death and joy and sorrow. So, come on then, take my memory. Okay, I'm not going to actually state the whole speech again, but it's just absolutely beautiful, with Mary Galel singing the long song in the background. Basically, at this point, everything is doom and gloom. Basically, everybody realizes the god is waking up and there is no hope. There is no salvation from this entity. And everybody starts singing to come together to try and, at least in hope's desperate chance of hope, that, we all connect, we all sing together in the face of danger, that we will all just, be happy and enjoy our company, and hopefully that will do something. And the Doctor listens to this and he hears the hope. He sees the amazing of this culture, this small little village, basically coming together because of their fear for this god, but they're coming together to overcome this god. And the Doctor goes on to his speech and basically sacrifices himself. But what does the Doctor value? What does the Doctor, in his mind, cherish the most? What does he give to the creature to try and overfeed it? Because in the speech he basically explains, I hope you have a big appetite, because the Doctor's basically going to try and hopefully overfeed him, make him a bit full, and hopefully, self-destruct in that sense. The Doctor gives this massive speech about his memories, his life experiences, all the adventures he's had, all of these amazing things, how he's seen Omega in a universe where it's all in his mind. He's seen the last Great Time War. He was there at the end of the universe in Utopia. And it's just, there's so many little callbacks to the series, but it's all to summarise the Doctor's, his greatest hope, his greatest, the thing he values the most. His adventures, his experiences, meeting all of these people, meeting all of this, all these new environments, all these people that he's met along the way. It just summarises the Doctor to an extent that I don't think any other scene in the entire history of the franchise has surpassed. And it's, that's mainly my opinion. You could easily disagree. A lot of people consider the speech in Pandorica Opens to be the best scene in Doctor Who. But in my opinion, this is the defining Doctor Who moment. This scene, watching it for the first time, is like having your eyes opened to everything. And as I remember watching this, and my mind instantly went to me at the age of 8, watching the Ninth Doctor for the first time, and me remembering my experiences with Series 1, and then even prior to that, when I used to watch the classic series on video, on VHS. It just summarises memory in a way that only Doctor Who can, especially for somebody who's not only a fan, but this series is so personal to them. It just brings a tear to the eye. However, that does feed the god for a moment, and it does seem to work for a moment. But the god quickly recovers from this, and it seems like all hope is lost. So Clara, she goes to the asteroid where the Doctor is, and she actually sacrifices the most precious leaf in the universe, according to her. The leaf that we saw in the Bells of St. John, the leaf that we learn in the pre-credit sequence is the leaf that fell on her father's face, and because he was in the traffic at the time, was in danger until Clara's mother saved him, and that's how they met. And to Clara, this represents, her relationship with her parents, and to her parents, it's the connection to her. So that leaf has an importance. But there's something unique about this leaf, something that Clara has a particular feel about. But you see, this leaf doesn't just represent the past, like the Doctor's memories, which didn't fill this entity, but it also represents all the lives, the what ifs, the life that never was, the life where Clara could have lived with her mother who stayed alive, all of those adventures that she missed out upon because she kept it in that book, in that 101 Places book, because that leaf basically represents all the things that not only have been, but could be. And as the Doctor explains, there's a lot of there's a lot of memories and emotions in the past. However, there's an infinite and more of what ifs, what could have been, all of these possibilities, all of that, what that means to someone represented in a symbol like this. And so the leaf, it sounds really stupid when you say it, but honest to God, it actually really, really works. And that is just a testament to Neil Cross's writing and Ferran Blackburn's directing and Matt Smith and Jenna Louise Coleman's acting ability. Let's also talk about Clara for a moment, because this is mainly a Clara-centered story. You see her with her relationship with Mary Gallel. There's this whole thing about her parents. She basically has done the most sacrificing in the story. She gave up the ring, something which means precious to her, so that she can save this little girl, that she can get this bike to get her and the Doctor transported to where Mary Gallel is. And she sacrificed, and her final moments, her final beat is to sacrifice in this leaf, which means so much to her, just to stop this god. And so this god was defeated by feeding off a leaf that represents the what if. I know it sounds incredibly stupid when you put it like that, but it works so phenomenally well. It's unbelievable. It's something that you're just, holy shit, what the hell am I watching? But in a good way. It's just incredible. Absolutely love it. So that's basically, right at the end of the story, the Doctor gives back Clara her ring, which the Doctor explains that the people of Akhaten wanted her to have her ring back because she saved basically everybody. But the story kind of has this small little beat where the Doctor's looking at her sinisterly. Oh, there's also this bit where Clara basically remembers the Doctor at Clara's mother's gravestone, and the Doctor basically explains that he was dead because she reminded him of someone that passed away, and Clara's just like, well, I'm not going to compete with a ghost. You take me on board because of me, which basically summarised, it feels like Neil Cross has turned into Stephen Moffat and goes, right, give Clara a character. She can't just be a plot point. That's just really funny to think about. But overall, this story is just so well utilised, so well written. Sure, it's structured oddly, with the actual story mainly focusing on the second half, and the first half is mainly about world building. But however, because Doctor Who is a franchise that has so many stories, it's serialised storytelling. You mainly have our two characters go completely to different places and different environments. You don't have to stay to one story, one kind of story for the series, for a franchise. So why not experiment for a bit? And the fact that Neil Cross gives so much character to Clara, whilst as well as adding this amazing world, whilst as well giving realising the Doctor so well as giving us the best Doctor Who scene of all time, This is one of my favourites. This is up there in my top 10 favourite Doctor Who stories. No word of a lie. This story is, fine wine. So anyway, that is the Ring of Akhaten. However, that's not the only story we'll be tackling today. Today we'll also be tackling The Rain Gods by Neil Gaiman, which is a short little story which I believe first aired on, which was the first time it appeared was on the Series 7 Part B DVD, I believe. I'm not quite sure. But essentially, the background behind this is actually kind of interesting. This is actually an unfilmed scene from the story The Doctor's Wife, where Neil Gaiman basically had this idea for a pre-credit sequence where the Doctor, Amy and Rory would find themselves on this planet about to be sacrificed by the Rain God, only for something to intervene and the Doctor and Amy and Rory escape. However, Neil Gaiman and Stephen Moffat really liked this idea, and so they adapted it so that they had the Doctor with his with his Series 7B costume, and instead of Amy and Rory, River Song is in this, and it's the only time where the Doctor, it's one of the few occasions where the Doctor, specifically the 11th Doctor, is seemed to be travelling with River Song with no other companion. I like to think that this implies that that it was in Series 7B, that round about that gap where River Song actually became a companion of the Doctor, because I like to think that she's the companion of the 11th Doctor, especially that it's implied that she's only had one appearance with the 12th Doctor. But anyway, it's not really that much of it. It's actually one of the short episodes of Doctor Who of all time. It only runs quite literally for 100 seconds, which I believe is like a minute and 40 minutes, if my maths is correct. But anyway, essentially the Doctor and River Song, they're walking in this quarry where they've got these two seemingly savages about to sacrifice them to their rain god, and the Doctor comes up with a plan, but however River Song points out it's not a plan, they're just guessing. He's just guessing. The Doctor has this really funny beat where he just looks up to the sky. He's like, if there's any rain gods, you're rubbish. Strike me down if I'm wrong. However, rain does appear and there seems to be lightning. The Doctor then is shown to basically explain that he actually can smell the ozone and basically can sense that on this planet it was going to rain nearby. And so using the rain, using the thunder as a distraction, him and River Song run away back into the TARDIS. And that's really it for the Rain God. There's not really much to it, but I do like seeing the 11th Doctor in this costume with River Song. It's just so small, it's so sweet. However, it does feel like a deleted scene. It does feel like it's missing a focus. It's just a scene, essentially. And I can't really imagine a lot of people getting too much of a kick out of this. But it's written by Neil Gaiman, who is a very famous writer. So yeah, Rain God, it's alright. It's nothing much. But The Rings of Akhaten is easily one of the best stories in the Doctor Who franchise, with well-realised characters, a well-established lore and world, and a threat, which means that the Doctor basically has to give up all of his, well, not give up, but basically has to unleash all of his memories, all of his passion to this creature, which sounded a lot more disgusting said out, but it made sense in my head. And it just summarises Doctor Who in a way that only Doctor Who can do it, despite the fact that the story doesn't actually feel like your traditional Doctor Who story. It's something new, it's something unique, but it's also something that represents the series even down to its most classic elements. It's so well done, it's so well written, absolutely love it. 10 out of 10 if I was doing rankings. Go watch The Rings of Akhaten. And on that note, that is the Rings of Akhaten and the story Rain God. So join me next time where we will be tackling another short story with Clara trapped in the TARDIS in Clara and the TARDIS, and the Doctor and Clara find themselves in the Cold War, in the height of the Cold War, on a Russian submarine as an alien threat, a familiar threat to the Doctor, is on board as hell is about to be unleashed. So join me next time for Clara and the TARDIS and Cold War, and we see the reintroduction, the revival era, first appearance of the Ice Warriors. I'll see you all next time. Ta-ra.